Shalom, shalom, everyone, and welcome once again to the House of Ministry as we continue in the series of the deep dive reading into Hebrews, which I believe has been written by Paul. This is sponsored by the House of Ministry, presented by yours truly, Brother Aaron. We ended at the beginning of chapter 7 in the previous lesson, and now we're going to continue in chapter 7. But before I do that, there was one thing I wanted to make sure we spoke on in reference to the end of chapter 6, where Paul mentions the forerunner. But before we go into chapter 7 further, I want us to take one step back. So go ahead and look at that. I wanted to demonstrate in the previous lesson how Yahusha, our Messiah, was the forerunner of the high priest order that we saw in the Levitical high priest order. He was the forerunner from the wilderness. He was the forerunner in the garden. And I wanted to prove that as well. All right? So let's take a look at this verse here in Genesis. Yahusha is the forerunner because he was here on earth from the beginning as well. He was from the very beginning. Genesis 3 and 8. And they heard the voice of Yahuwah Elohim walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahuwah Elohim amongst the trees of the garden. The voice of Yah is his word, but listen to how it says it. And they heard the voice walking. So this is not Yahuwah. And this ain't simply some random person walking or some type of unique voice. The voice of Yahuwah was walking in the garden. And remember, Paul says, and I don't know, Minister White, I know she's going to get it from me. Paul's learned, it might be in Corinthians, where he says that all things were created, all things were created by the Messiah. So if that's the case, then you know definitely he was present during the garden. And here we see, if you pay attention to the small words, the voice of Yahuwah walking in the garden. Mm-hmm. We know, according to John chapter 1, in the beginning, yes, the Word, and the Word was with Yah. All right? So we know the Word, and Yahusha was the Word made flesh. So we know his Word is Yahusha. Thus, what Adam and Eve heard was Yahusha in the garden. Now think about that. This also means that Torah was in the garden as well, because we also know that you cannot sin or disobey unless the law was present. Mm-hmm. And we know that's what Adam and Eve did. They disobeyed. They sinned. It was considered a sin, the first sin, right? So we know that the law was present because we know Yahusha was present, the living Word. Does that make sense? I know we're not taught to look at it like that, mm-hmm. but it's right there in your face. Anybody have any questions?
Your scripture you're looking for is in Colossians chapter 1, verse 16.
I got both books wrong. Colossians chapter 1, what, Minister?
Verse 16.
All right. All right, thank you.
Did you want to read that?
If you can read it, that'd be great.
Okay. It says, "For by him were all things created." Is that the one you're looking for?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, yeah. "For by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in the earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him." I just want to add, when you see thrones, dominions, principalities, or powers, think Ephesians chapter 6. When it says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, you see these same words being used in Ephesians chapter 6, which proves that when we're in Hamashiach, he gives us authority over that, right? Even though those things were created by him also. They think those things portray themselves as Elohim themselves. But Colossians says, no, Yahusha is the creator of all of this. All things were created for him and by him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, brother.
That's excellent. Yes, ma'am. That's great. Thank you. Oh, all right. Now, I want to look at this word voice on the next screen. Let's take a look. We're going to look at it in the ancient Hebrew. The word voice is whole in the ancient, or in modern Hebrew, and it means voice, sound, and noise. In the ancient Hebrew, it's the sound of the shepherd. And we all know, even in Christian church, we know who our shepherd is, who leads the flock. We all know that. The Hebrew word letters that make up this word is kuf, wa, or some people say vav, and lamed. Kuf is the sun at the horizon. Even forerunner, right? It's the sun at the horizon, and it shows the physical and spiritual understanding of Torah. This shepherd has both. He has to if he's going to teach it. If he's the master teacher, you better believe he has a physical and a spiritual understanding of his law. His law. And Wa, or Vav, is the connection. It's the light that connects to heaven and earth. A two-way communication. He was the connection to the Shamayim, to heaven. And Lamed is the master teacher, which is our Savior, our Messiah, Yahusha. So you could say it like this, that the Torah that gives life, or the word, the very word that gives life, that comes from the heaven, from the Shamayim. It comes through Yahusha. So see, by seeing what the word voice means and understanding at the time that this is being used, you know that this is Yahusha in the garden. No one else had this type of understanding or knowledge or authority. No one else. So the point to say, to bring out that this is truly indeed the forerunner, Yahusha is the forerunner. Because again, like Paul has said in Colossians, he says it clearly, the Bible, the scripture says it clearly here in Genesis, he was right there in the garden all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All right? This is why it's great to read the original Hebrew. You cannot see the levels of Hebrew in your modern Hebrew. You don't see that like that. You don't go to the ancient Hebrew. The original Hebrew, I call it. All right. Do we have any questions? I hope that adds to some understanding of what we talked about in the last meeting.
I have a comment, please. I'll go and I'm going to the AHLG with the word voice. It also says, when the shepherd called the sheep swiftly and they turned to him. And it also says the staff of the shepherd was his tool of authority and discipline for taking the flock from predators. So we know then that the Messiah was leading the flock with the Torah. And the Torah protects you from predators because it is the law. When his wife says that he has the law, when he was in the garden, he did have the law, not. Then what authority was he giving the sheep, the people, Adam and Eve? What authority? How was he disciplining them based on what? Has to be a law for discipline. Okay? So, and then we'll start on with Isaiah 9:6. Also said that the government was on his shoulders. So as you know that, and put us a son is born, and with him the government should be upon his shoulders. So the government was upon his shoulders when he came up from the fire. But the government was also on his shoulders when he was walking into the garden as a voice.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Everywhere he goes, because he is the voice of the Torah, it's with him. So if he's in the garden, the Torah is with him. If he's on the cross, the Torah is with him. And when he come back again, and the Torah is with him. So thank you.
Absolutely. It's been given to him, right? Into the hand of our mediator, as the Torah been given. If he is the mediator and the only mediator, Paul says there's only one mediator for us, then he mediates he's not going to have the Torah in his hand just having it bundled up like it's some type of handkerchief or something. He's going to have it in his hand to use that to mediate, like you were saying there, Sarada. You know, I was looking at the letter Lamed in the ancient Hebrew. It looks like a J tilted on its side, right? If it's the shepherd's staff, you would think that it would be flipped upside down, like the J curve is at the top. But when a shepherd is guiding his sheep and he walks with the staff, but when he corrects and changes direction of the sheep, he uses the staff to do something. Doesn't that make sense? So the staff is pointed to where? Pointed down to where the sheep are. To guide the sheep. Because I don't know no 6'5" sheep. Right?
But Andrew,
Maybe that's why they keep it. Yes, ma'am.
my apologies. Not to over talk you. I was going to mention that when you look at that staff, can you see a fish hook also?
Yeah. A hook, period.
Yes, it looks like a fish hook because we are fishers of men. How do you fish these men? With that hook, with the teachings of the Most High. Thank you, Governor.
Yep. Yes, ma'am. Yep. That's exactly right. Just an observation, but it's there. It is there. So I'm hoping that we get a good understanding of this, that indeed the Messiah has been there from the beginning. And since Minister Ronnie brought it up, I want to bring out another observation. Why would Most High throw away or end something that he thought was so important that he was in the garden with him from the very beginning, teaching the first man and woman how to do it? So he's going to have it at the beginning of creation, but for some reason throw it away later? Don't make sense. Don't make sense. Just an observation. All right. So we're going to continue back on our series with the Hebrew 7. And brother, I want you to go ahead and read Hebrews 7, 1 through 3. So that's get back to where we finished when we first started chapter 7, and then we're going to pick up on the next slide.
Okay, no problem. Hebrews chapter 7, verse 1 through 3. For this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of El Elyon, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him, to whom also Abraham gave a tenth part of all, first being an interpretation king of righteousness, after that also king of Shalem, which is king of peace, or Shalom, yes. Without father, without mother, without decent, having neither beginning or days, nor end of life, made like unto the son of Elohim by the priest continually.
So he was comparing how Melchizedek had no Levitical lineage, none. And he had no beginning or end from the knowledge that Paul had of him. And thus, that's what we see in our Messiah, Yahusha, in the order of Melchizedek. There is no beginning or end of him. He has no Levitical lineage. His lineage, it has nothing to do with the Levitical priesthood or his priestly order. Okay? That's what Paul was talking about. And that's why we're talking about the Melchizedek order. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and get this show on the road. All right. So the high priest Melchizedek is not of the Levitical order. I'm going to continue in that thought. Verses 4 to 6. I'll go ahead and read it this time. Now consider how great this man was, Melchizedek, unto whom even the patriarch Abraham gave the tenth of the spoil. And verily, they that are of the sons of Levi, who receive the office of the priesthood, have a commandment to take tithes of the people according to the law, that is, of the brethren. Those that come out of the loins of Abraham, but he whose descent is not counted from them received tithes of Abraham, and blessed him that had the promises. So just like we were just speaking of, the high priest Melchizedek was so great that even our patriarchs tithes to Abraham. And those the Levites received tithes according to the law, but Melchizedek wasn't even of them. He didn't come from Levi. But yet he received tithes. So the law of tithing predates the Levitical order. Because the Melchizedek, this high priest, this king of righteousness, that's what Melchizedek means, this king of righteousness predates the Levitical order. So tithing is beyond what we've been taught normally, right? Now Paul speaks of this, demonstrating how the order of Melchizedek precedes the Levites, and I want people to understand that before we continue. This just proves that our high priest today, Yahusha, is a priest under a different order. That's the change, not the law. And they say change. I won't even call it change. According to the Greek, and we talk about this, it was a transfer. All right? It was a transfer, and we'll talk about that more when it comes. Anybody have any questions or adds to this? All right. All right, let's keep it going then. All right, Brother Isaac, are you able to read for us?
Yes, sir. Hebrews 7:7-10. And without all contradiction, the less is blessed of the better. And him men that he received time. There he receiveth them, to whom the witness may keep them.
All right, thank you. Thank you, brother. Those promises were given to Abraham. Melchizedek was still the greater, who blessed the lesser. Can you imagine that? Blessed the lesser, Abraham. Now, Paul, what I find interesting is that Abraham was righteous, right? And Yahuwah called him a friend, but he was not the high priest. Melchizedek, who was called righteous in his own title, the righteous king, king of righteousness, in his own title, was righteous as well. But Yah makes a choice to do things his way. Abraham was given the promise, not the high priest. That's two different roles, right? Two different things. Now, Paul states that Melchizedek lived, unlike the Levitical priest who followed after him, continually died, always producing a new high priest. Because at the time, the king of righteousness, we saw here, was the only priest. Just like we know now, Yahusha is our only priest, right? Excuse me. Now, the book of Yashar provides the name of Melchizedek, which is Shem, the son of Noah. I don't believe I have that in here, we can talk about that. Let me see if I have it. I thought I put the verse in here. Let's see. I did not. I'll have to share it in the notes or something later on in the comments or something. Book of Yashar or Yashar does provide the name of Melchizedek to Shem. And that name is the same name of the son of Noah. Shem, who continued in the position of high priest for hundreds of years, did not need replacing being in the order of Melchizedek. All right? Now note, if Shem is the father of the Shemitic people, and Abraham is his seed, think about this, then only one people came of the high priest, or came to, for, I'm going to rephrase it, then only one people came of that high priest, or the high priest came from that one people. And thus only one people can be the priest of the one. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry for the misconception. That's not a word, but what needs to be understood is that the priestly order, even though it's not of the Levitical tribe, is of the people still, the Hebrew people. And thus the priesthood is of the Hebrew people. Only. All right? So everybody follow.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if you said this, but when you said that the priestly order comes from the Hebrew people, you mean the Hebrew like from them, so from the tribe, right?
Yeah, that's good specific. I didn't get that specific because you're right. He's more than just Isaac, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No, good point. Thank you, Mr. Bean. Very good point. Anybody else?
I think we're good.
Yeah, so that means, yes, okay, good. So that means, as Billy said, that to be clear, this priestly order comes from the 12 tribes, to be specific. All right, let's keep it going then. Now, Paul continues by comparing Yahusha and Melchizedek. Now he's explaining how Melchizedek lived hundreds and hundreds of years as a high priest. And his name was Shem, right? So he lived hundreds and hundreds of years. He was never had to be replaced like the Levitical order where they had to be replaced continually and continue. And that he was the only one. And he did not have a descendant lineage in the Levitical priesthood. His was outside of that. So now you see why Paul has made sure he separated the two, the Melchizedek and Levi, letting you know that they're different. Now he's going to compare Yahusha and Melchizedek together, okay? Because he's telling you that our Messiah is the same thing, all right? Same thing. So let's see, who can read next? Brother Gianni, you want to read for me, sir?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Hebrews 7:11-12.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If therefore profession were by the Levitical priesthood, for under it the people received the Torah, what further need was there that another priest should rise after the order of Melchizedek, and not be called after the order of Aaron? For the priesthood being changed, there is made of necessity a change also of Torah.
Thank you. Boy, this one right here, the church, anybody that reads this book in the church will think he changed. Now, this contradicts everything that we know about Yah. But he already told you I don't change. If you're telling me his law changed, that means Yahusha has changed. You're telling me our Messiah changed. That don't make sense. So we're going to talk about this word. But he's like, If therefore perfection was found in the Levitical priesthood, then there would not have been a need for another priesthood of the order of Melchizedek to come afterwards. And he's not talking about existing after this. It's follow up behind this because, of course, the priesthood had all kinds of problems. Levitical order had all kinds of problems. So let's talk about this word change. Let me see if I can pronounce this. You know, the Greek thing, that quick tongue. Change. Meta Tessini.
Mm-hmm.
Meta Tessini. Same. There we go. It's to transfer. That means to transplant, not change.
Mm-hmm.
Now the church, especially the Catholic Church, they want you to think that the Torah was changed.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you need to explain why the Sabbath is different, why images are different, why they can change the way worship would be, and so on. Because it changed, but it never changed. Remember, Paul said that the law was given into the hand of the mediator. It was taken out of the hand of the Levitical priesthood and into the hand of our high priest of the order of Melchizedek and Yahusha. So it wasn't changed, it was transferred. The priesthood was in place to teach us Torah because the priesthood was flawed in the flesh, and Paul's going to say that in the very next chapter. And animal sacrifices were constantly needed, which Yah says he's tired of in Isaiah 1, chapter 1. Perfection could not be achieved. He says that also here in the book of Hebrews as well. Okay? So with a changing of the priesthood, by transferring, now we know it wasn't changed, it literally was transferred. There was a transferring of the Torah as well. So give me my Torah back, pretty much. That's how I can see him saying, y'all done screwed up enough, let the master take care of it. This is the verse. These two verses are what's used. In fact, a gentleman tried to use this on me while I was in a grocery store. He came to me speaking about a religion that I found very weird. And for some reason, I've ran into 3 of these people in the grocery store. I don't know why I keep running into them in grocery stores. I guess they just like, strolling through grocery stores. But this denomination is very peculiar. But he tried to say that the law was changed, and he used this verse. And I told him that word is a translation mistake. And he got tired of me saying that, and he says, I guess all of it. I guess that's a defense mechanism for him. But you got to look up the translations, and you have to understand he's had their hands on this. How can you trust Western Europe to do the right thing? They haven't done the right thing for centuries when it comes to anything outside the Bible. So how are they going to do it right with it inside the Bible? No. That's common sense. All right? So this is a translation misread. I won't even call it a translation error. It's a translation misread.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Now, before I ask questions, I want to go to the next slide because I want you to read this in the interlinear. In the interlinear. I love the interlinear because it predates the more modern Greek translations, and that's the older. Anybody that really studies the translations of the Bible or the sources of our Bible, modern Bible, you know that to get past the errors and lies and misdirection, it's best to read the oldest source you can find to do that. So the older the source, the more likelihood you'll find the truth. I won't say it's always the case, of course, because when you're not a Hebrew and you translate anything, in Greek or whatever, you're going to either make mistakes or willfully do it. But let's look at this interlinear and see how this reads. If indeed then perfection was through the Levitical, 3:2, for the people have been placed under Torah with it, then the Torah was changed. But if indeed then perfection was through the Levitical priesthood, for the people have been placed under Torah with it, then the Torah was changed. For the people have been placed under Torah with it, then the Torah was changed. For the people have been placed under Torah with it, then the Torah was changed. For the people have been placed under Torah with it, then the Torah was changed. For the people have been placed under Torah with it, then the Torah was changed. For the people have been placed under Torah with it, then the Torah was changed. For the people have been placed under Torah with it, then the Torah was changed. For the people have been placed under Torah with it, then the Torah was changed. For the people have been placed under Torah with it, then the Torah was changed. For the people have been placed under Torah with it, then the Torah was changed. For the people have been placed under Torah with it, then the Torah was changed. For the people have been placed under Torah with it, then the Torah was changed. For the people have been placed under Torah with it, then the Torah was ch need is there still for a different priest to arise according to the order of Melchizedek, and not said to be according to the order of Aaron. So the priesthood being transferred. I didn't change that word. This is what the interlinear Bible says. Of necessity, there is coming to be a transference of Torah also. I didn't have to correct it. It just shows you the modern day Greek definition of that word, which our English translation that comes 1,200 years after this got it wrong on purpose because they had the same Greek material I'm reading, the same Greek material. The interlinear Greek Bible translation, the Greek source dates back to the 4th century. The King James Bible was translated in the 16th century, 1611, when it was released. So we know by the definition I just demonstrated to you, and this Bible that comes from a translation that dates the 4th century, the Torah was not changed or transferred. It was taken out of the hand of man and put under the authority of the originator. That's what it was doing. It's like a boss coming to his job. He's been on vacation for years, and he let his son run it as the CEO, acting CEO, and he ran the stock price down. So the boss, the founder of the company, comes back and he takes the position of CEO. That's what Yahusha did. And that makes sense. He took the authority of the Torah out of the hand of his son because he was screwing it up. That's how I imagine it to be. So thus our high priest under the order of Melchizedek according to Torah, just as the Levitical priesthood did. So Paul's letter here is proving that Torah is eternal. It never was changed and it was never removed. Right? Now, after saying all that, anybody have any questions?
Are you going to highlight verse 13 also? 13.
Yes, ma'am. That's going to be next slide.
Oh, I'm quiet. Okay.
Anybody else? Oh, all right. Well, let's continue. Now, after the priesthood was transferred to the Melchizedek order, Paul compares Melchizedek and Yahusha, both priests outside the Levitical order. Sister Lily, are you able to read for us, please?
Yes, I can. Hebrews 7:13-17. For he of whom these things are spoken pertains to another tribe, of which no man be a descendant at the altar. For it is evident that our Adonai sprang out of Judah, of which tribe Moses spake nothing concerning priesthood. And it is yet far more evident that after the similitude of Melchizedek there arises another priest, who is made not after the law of a carnal commandment, but after the power of an endless life, for he testifieth, Thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek.
Thank you, Sister Lily. I love these verses here. And now I know Minister Mark. Or I'm going to say my piece and give her a thing. Now Melchizedek has no lineage. Like we spoke. No lineage at all towards the altar. Because the tribe of Levi is spoken of there. Okay? Yahusha being from the tribe of Yehuda, a tribe not spoken of at the altar, meaning the priesthood. So Yahusha was not born of a fleshly humanity. He was never mortal, but eternal. So Yahuwah spoke that immutable oath that thou art a priest forever after this order of Melchizedek. So we know then, just as Melchizedek, Yahusha is as well, eternally one priest. And think about this. The priesthood that we have now in the Melchizedek order came from the tribe of Judah. That is significant. So the tribe of Judah has a special place, has a real special place. Now, Minister White, I give you space. Please.
One more caveat is where it says he is not after the law of a carnal commandment, but after the power of an endless life. Another reason this order is transferred to him is because he doesn't die anymore. Under the order of Aaron, the Levitical order, the priests, the high priests, were being renewed after each one died. Every time a high priest died, they had to replace him. The benefit of us having Mashiach is that he died once for all. He won't die again. And the law that comes with him remains. Since he remains forever, that law remains forever. Remember, if you're under a law of a man or a man-made system, when that person that created that law is dead and gone, other laws can replace it. But because our Messiah will not die again, he's already tasted death and won't need to do it again. The laws that come with him, those laws are eternal. This is good for those of us who understand the law, who accept that the laws are still applicable today, and who love those things that the law says. This is a benefit for us, that we can always look forward to to the law being present, and all the things that are written in this law about us are eternal, because the one who brought this blood covenant into place is eternal, immortal, and will never cease to exist again. So all these things that are about us will never cease to exist either. That's the only thing I wanted to point out.
Now that's some juicy tidbits there. Thank you, Minister.
You're welcome.
That's wonderful. When I read like this and really take our time to read this, this is phenomenal. This is extraordinary. And this is what has given us our victory. Our victory is in this Torah. Our salvation is in this Torah, because it's by the Torah. The idea of saying it's done away with is to say you throw away the answer to your sin. It's extraordinarily mind-boggling to me now. It wasn't when I was in the church. I was in line with the church as well. But now, since my eyes have been opened to this, what were taught and what I used to believe was an absolute greatest deception. The greatest deception. Because Satan has taught the world that the very thing, I will call it, that will give you life is actually worth nothing and you can throw it away. That's his greatest lie.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, anybody else? All right. Let's go next time. Minister White, I don't believe I've had you read for me yet, have I?
No, sir. Okay, for there is verily a disannulling of the commandment going before, for the weakness and unprofitableness thereof. For Torah made nothing perfect, but the bringing in of a better hope did, by the which we draw nigh unto Yahuwah. And inasmuch as not without an oath he was made priest. For those priests were made without an oath, but this with an oath by him that said unto him, Yahuwah swear and will not repent. Thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Now, we can't forget what we've read already. We have been reading how the authority of one was transferred to another. So it was leaving the Levitical priesthood and going to the order of Melchizedek. So we cannot forget what we read. Just this annulling of the commandment going before for the weakness and unprofitableness thereof. And so he's saying it was those Levites, and he's going to specify this more, saying it was flesh, not the law. For the Torah made nothing perfect. Why? It was not Torah, and he says it in the next chapter. I promise you he does. He says it in the next chapter. The Torah cannot make us perfect because of us, not the Torah itself, but the bringing in of a better hope. The Torah brought in a better hope. That italicized did, don't belong. It makes me think that this better hope came outside of Torah. Read it read it like this. For Torah made nothing perfect, but the bringing in of a better hope did. You see how that sounds? But read it without the did. For Torah made nothing perfect, it's the bringing in of a better hope. It did bring in a better hope. Because now we have a high priest that's going to make sure his followers, his sheep, get it right and be in the condition that is acceptable to his heavenly Father. This priest will not fail us like the Levitical priest did. Failed in teaching us, failed in understanding the Torah itself, forgot the Torah as well, lost the Torah as well. This high priest won't do that. See, and then again, you see Hebrews 8:8. We'll discuss that part where it was our fault. And we know that the Levitical priesthood was made without an oath from Yahuwah. It was without an oath. So they were never meant to be eternal, like Yahusha. All right? Everybody understands? Any questions? Comments? All right. Let's continue. Now, Yahusha, our eternal high priest and mediator, makes intercession for us. All right? Now, we just ended it saying this, that Yahusha, he swear to no other, thou art his priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. All right? Now, we got to remember that piece. We want to continue in this talk, in this discussion that Paul is having. Brother Isaac, would you read for me, please?
Yeah. Hebrews 7:22-25. By so much was Yahusha made authority of the third testament, and they truly were many priests. They were not suffered to continue by reason of their testimony to continuous ever hath an unchangeable priesthood. Wherefore he is able also to strengthen your uttermost strength, linking God, seeing he ever liveth to make intercession for them.
See? Thank you, Brother Isaac. I told you, Yahusha is not going to fail us. He's not going to fail us. But he's not going to make intercession for those who aren't doing what they're supposed to do. You know, just like in a union, An arbitrator is not going to arbitrate for someone who does not obey or comply with the union rules. They won't waste their time being the mediator or arbitrator between the union and the company. They won't waste their time because they know it would be a waste of time. An arbitrator or a mediator is used for those who are doing what is right according to the agreement, according to the contract, according to the covenant. If you're not following this contract, you don't get an intercession. You don't get mediation. You don't get it. And it's funny, Paul says here, a better testament or a better covenant. The church is going to say a new covenant, which Paul somehow magically says in the next chapter. He goes from better covenant to a new covenant for some reason. Why would he do that? Because the English wants you to believe in their translation. The Romans want you to believe in their Latin translations and Greek translations. That something new came out of nowhere and got rid of the very thing that started in the Garden of Eden, that existed before the Garden of Eden. All right, we'll talk about this more later, though. All right, any questions or comments? All right, if nothing, just keep it going. All right, who hasn't read for a minute? Who's able to read? Sister Monique, are you able to read? Next.
Yes, sir. I can read.
You're able to read, Sister Monique?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so please read, Yahusha, our eternal high priest, sinless, offered himself once for his people. Listen to the word. His people. Not a spiritual people. Not a adopted people. Not a grafted in people that way the church teaches. None of that. His people. Please read Hebrews 7:26-28.
Yes. For such a high priest became us who is holy, harmless, and undefiled, separate from sinners, and made higher than the heavens, who needed not daily, as those high priests, to offer up sacrifice, first for his own sins, and then for the people. For this he did once, when he offered up himself. For the Torah maketh men high priests, which have infirmity. But the word of the oath, which was the Torah, maketh the Son, who is concentrated forevermore.
Thank you, Sister Monique. Did you hear what Paul just said? For the Torah made men high priests, which have infirmity, which have sin, which have weaknesses and frailties and failures. Because according to Torah, they were assigned that role according to their tribe. But the oath that we've been talking about forever, the immutable, the unchangeable word, that he will be a high priest after the order of Melchizedek, listen to when this was stated. This unchangeable oath was since the Torah. Really? Didn't we just say that Yahusha was in the garden? Didn't we say, we also discussed in the prior lesson, and he wasn't just in the garden, but he was also in the wilderness following the Hebrews as they traveled through the wilderness for 40 years. This Torah is eternal because it's been existing prior to everything, and this oath was made since the Torah. So how can you throw something away that's always been in place? And it made our Messiah, this oath, consecrated forevermore in this role. Since the Torah. for this written Torah created the high priest, the Torah that we have been learning from and understanding. All right? Anybody have any questions or any clarity needed with this? We have to understand that this type of statement and the way Paul is speaking, he's making it very clear. The Torah existed before it was ever given to Moses. And it existed before the Levitical priesthood. So of course it's given into our mediator's hands. This makes sense.
Yes.
All right. All right, any questions? All right, let's look at this highlighted the. This is going to be the question we normally don't see, or a particular that we usually don't. The word the, when you look at the translation in the Greek, it's called a definitive article. It's used to indicate a noun refers to a specific thing or to something that has been identified previously. It's like how we say, all the people, but we might hear somebody say all the people. Definitive means a particular group. So the can be this, that, or these. So by understanding this, using the instead of all informs us that a particular group of people is being referred or referenced. All right? Not for all. We have to, and I'm serious, that's how the translations work. You have to understand that. So thus, Yahusha offered himself up once for the particular people, a specific people, not the world. And this elsewhere, this is written straws, but I can go through the gospel and just disprove all that stuff the church teaches if you really want me to. That's not a problem at all. And since the topic of the Hebrews so far has been about the Levitical priest and Yashar, then the definitive article people are the Hebrews. You can't say he's talking about anybody else. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody have any questions?
No.
Okay. And at the time, all right, let's move to one more set of slides and we're going to call it a night. So now we're going to move to chapter 8. And this is an important chapter. Our high priest sits on the right hand of Yah, a minister of the sanctuary. Because that's what the high priest did, right? So Hebrews 8, 1 through 2. Now, of the things which we have spoken, this is the sum. We have such a high priest who is set on the right hand of the throne of the majesty in the heavens, a minister of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle, which Adonai, or the masterpiece, and not man. Oh my goodness. Don't you need rules and laws to govern a tabernacle?
Mm-hmm. And the priest.
How in the world is Torah thrown away when there's one in the Samaim that requires a law to be read?
Mm-hmm.
The word minister is liturgos, a public servant, that is, of the temple and of a priest. And sanctuary is hagion, is reverend, worthy of veneration, serious of all, holy place. All right? Everybody follow. I love looking at little stuff like this because it helps us see and build that the Torah could not be anywhere but eternal, not thrown away like a garment. The question. So again, this is just building on what we've talked about. We've already talked about it some tonight. What we do is a shadow of what is to come, Colossians 2:16 through 17. And there is a temple in heaven. Then how can you say the Torah is no longer needed when it is required in the heaven? We just read that it has to be required. For the temple here on earth is a shadow of the temple in heaven. The temple that was here on earth and got destroyed because of the disobedience of the Hebrews, of us, was a resemblance, a shadow of the temple in heaven. Think about that. When you ask that question like that, how can the law be done away? All right. Ezekiel 43:12. This is the Torah of the house. Upon the top of the mountain, the whole limit thereof round about shall be most holy. Behold, is the Torah of the house. If the temple exists in heaven and what we had on earth mirrored, then the Torah governed both, the one on earth and the one on heaven. Why? Because Ezekiel just said this is the Torah of the house. People might say, before I read Ezekiel, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that the temple requires a law. But Ezekiel just said it right there in 43 verse 12.
Brother Andrew,
All right? Yes, ma'am.
it does, for anyone who says it doesn't require law, they need to go back and read chapter 7 in Hebrews, where it says that there has been a transference of the law.
Mm-hmm.
You can't
Yeah,
transfer what didn't exist.
Yeah, the problem is, Minister Ronnie, I'm sorry, Minister White, you're absolutely right. They love to read their own translation, and it doesn't say transfer. It says change, and they twist it even further.
My reply to that would be the word change does not mean abolish. So even if we were to go with the word change, it doesn't mean eradicate. So there is still a law. That means that there has been an amendment to it, because in the most basic understanding of it from the Christian point of view, it would be an amendment. So the law is still there. So how do you say the law is done away with when it just said that the law changed? It didn't say the law is done away, henceforth the law is no more. It says no, it has changed. And one more thing.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Yahusha taught his apostles when he taught them how to pray. What did he say to them? You pray, thy kingdom come, thine will be done. Where? On earth, comparing it to what? As it is in the Shamayim, in heaven, right? So if you want Yahuwah's kingdom to come on earth, and you just showed us that there is a tabernacle in the Shamayim that's coming to earth, and Revelation speaks to that, and coming with that tabernacle, right, are the laws that govern it. So we're back to the laws being on earth because they never left. So how Christianity cannot escape the laws when you begin to put all these precepts together. Thank you, Brother Andrew.
This is so true. That is so true. And then they will say, well, the law was changed to something new. That's what they say. And it's only in the New Testament that you find. But, if you read the New Testament carefully, you know that does not change either. So it's what they wish to do because that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. Anybody else? All right. Well, we thank you for joining the House of Sheila Ministries. I hope you enjoyed this series, this lesson tonight. I think this was part of the meatier stuff of the book of Hebrews because I love the fact that it's talking about the temple, the high priest, transference, and it proves how disgusting this that the law has not been done away with. Please join us as we continue next week in part 7 or part 9 or part 10. I'm sorry, part 10, 11, where we talk about we get into the quote unquote new covenant based in Jeremiah 31:31. Please join us again next week. Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.